Do I want to do that? I know Adam's yelling, yeah, do it. Yeah, do it. St. John is Canada's oldest incorporated city, but honestly, that's not even the most interesting thing about it. This place has survived massive fires, reversing rivers, and tidal forces so powerful they could fill the Grand Canyon twice per day. And the best part, all that history and natural wonder is still shaping what it feels like to live here today. How's it going, everybody? My name is Brandon Vincent. I'm a real estate agent here in St. John, New Brunswick with eXp Realty. I've been actively selling real estate for over 7 years now. My goal in this channel is to bring you relevant real estate information in an entertaining way. But today we're going to do something different. We're going to be talking about the history of St. John and what makes this city so special. And we're going to be looking at where the city came from so that we can really figure out where the city is going. So let's dive right into it. And in order to help set the tone on this historic video, I'm going to be changing my hat out to a flat cap, which I feel is going to be a little bit more suitable to help give that historic feel. Section 1, before it was St. John. So long before any Europeans arrived here in St. John, this was home to the Micmac and the Maliseet people that were the local indigenous people in the area here. So they used the St. John River as a major travel route, but also as a lifeline for trade, fishing, hunting, and community. Then in 1604, Samuel de Champlain sails into the bay, and along the river, he names it St. John because he was arriving on the feast day of St. John the Baptist. And that's where it all starts. But the real history of St. John doesn't start until much later. Section 2, a city built by people starting over. After the American Revolution, 14,000 Loyalists fled north, many of them landing right here in 1783. These people at that time had lost everything: their homes, their businesses, their lives, even their country. And they came here on the shore of the Bay of Fundy and started over. Just 2 years later, in 1785, the settlements of Partown and Carleton, they received the official royal charter, and they became the first incorporated city in Canada known as St. John. We have to keep in mind that this is before Vancouver, this is before Calgary, this is before Ottawa. St. John was Canada's first incorporated city. And that's a big title, but in the early years, things were far from perfect. The original city charter actually restricted Black Loyalists or non-Loyalists from working certain jobs or becoming free men. Those exclusions weren't removed until 1870, which is roughly 100 years after the Loyalists showed up originally. So it's an inspiring story, but it's also an honest story. Section 3, the fire that rebuilt the city. So if walking in uptown St. John feels a little bit like a Victorian movie set to you, that's because we had a horrific incident that most cities would not have been able to survive. On June 20th, 1877, a spark in a storehouse ignited what is one of the largest urban fires in Canadian history. That fire burned for nearly 40 hours. It destroyed over 1,600 buildings, a third of the population of St. John that was made homeless in a matter of 2 days. And it's just so shocking to think about how the mindsets would have been of those people at the time and how they had to come together to rebuild and kind of what would have been left after the fire and what that would have looked like. It's just so fascinating to think about that this is a real portion of history here in the city. So after 1877 and the St. John fire, St. John had sent out a calling for all architects to come and help rebuild the city. And that's why we have so many buildings that have such magnificent architecture, but they look so drastically different side by side in the uptown area. And it's because we had so many different minds coming from all over. There was architects coming from New York, from all these big cities, from Boston, as you can see a lot of kind of like Boston infrastructure, I feel like. And it's just so fascinating when you look at the city today to try to think about maybe where that architect would have came from that designed a certain building. I think it's super fascinating. Section 4, the Bay of Fundy. The superstar in our story that refuses to operate by the laws of physics.
Like, actually, it does operate within the laws of physics. That's how it's able to do what it does.
I get it. but it's still super impressive. It's hard to talk about St. John and not talk about the Bay of Fundy and the highest tides in the world. So the tide goes up about 16 meters or 52 feet twice every 12 hours. Every single tide cycle has about 160 billion tons of water. That's enough to fill the Grand Canyon twice. And that tidal cycle does something that you will not see anywhere else on Earth. It literally makes the St. John River reverse. And for those who aren't from here and don't understand what I'm talking about, here's a clip of me literally down at the Reversing Falls explaining it.
Right now what we have going on coming from this way is the St. John River pushing in to the Bay of Fundy, which is coming from over here. That's the ocean there. That's the ocean coming from that way. And because we're at low tide, we have the St. John River dumping in to the Bay of Fundy here. So the reason this is called the Reversing Falls is once the high tide comes up from the Bay of Fundy, it pushes the St. John River back, and all that water dumps back into the St. John River. And this happens multiple times a day. So it's super, super, super exciting. It's cool. So down here again, over this way, we have the Bay of Fundy, which is pushing into the St. John River this way because we're an hour and a half from high tide. So we have the ocean pushing the St. John River back, and that's why all the action right now is happening over here, where on the last video that I took, it was all happening over here because the St. John River was pushing the ocean back as the ocean was at low tide. So you can see, you can't really see any of the black spots on the rocks. It's a little bit calm on this side, but we have the rapids happening over this way here. So yeah, cool stuff.
When you live here, the tides aren't just a natural wonder. They become part of your daily routine, a sort of rhythm that you learn to live by. And that leads me directly into Section 5, when St. John ruled the seas. In the 1800s, St. John was a shipbuilding powerhouse. This was the era of tall ships. One of the fastest ships ever built was the Marco Polo. It was built right here and launched out of St. John in 1851. And the Marco Polo was so fast on her run in 1852 from Liverpool to Australia that it was quickly named the fastest ship in the world. And at that time, St. John was known internationally because the ships built here traveled all over the world. And this city hasn't just built ships, it has built knowledge and industry. Section 6, Firsts, Innovation and Industrial Muscle. St. John High School, which was founded in 1805, is recognized as one of Canada's oldest publicly funded high schools. The New Brunswick Museum, originating in 1842, is widely considered Canada's first museum. We also have Moosehead Breweries, which was founded in 1867, and that is Canada's oldest independent brewery, which is still family-owned here today after 150 years. And how's this for industrial muscle? We have the Irving Oil Refinery, which is Canada's largest oil refinery, making over 300,000 barrels per day. So for a small city, St. John is really punching above its weight class, okay? You have education, you have breweries, you have tall ships. What you're seeing is industry built here in St. John. It all stacks into this identity of a place that built. So if you're looking for a city of rich history, affordability, community, nature, that's what St. John offers. It's been offering that for a very long time. So I hope this video has been useful, educational, entertaining, something along those lines. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I would be happy to get in contact, have a discussion about if St. John is right for you, or if you just want to reach out about any other real estate questions. This is just a fun video I wanted to make to provide a little bit of value and talk about the city that I was born and raised. Hope you have a great day.